So they have these giant speakers within the stadium, and we're walking by, and the pastor's just going on the speaker. He's like, "Everyone outside the stadium is gonna burn, burn," and everyone inside is going, "Hallelujah, Gloria Deus," and like speaking in tongues and all this crazy stuff that you hear about, like from these churches, like where they roll around on the ground and they have these spiritual manifestations. It is a very essential part of these churches. Like, this is not just something from a weird movie. But all this stuff is happening inside the stadium. And me and my companion are just kind of like, okay. So we walk about 200 yards, and then there's the Catholic Cathedral. And in front of the Catholic Cathedral, the Catholics are having their counterattack. They have this outdoor mass where the father, the pastor, is there, and they have the I don't know what they call it, the sacrament and everything, and then they've got this big giant sound bus. Like what they do in Brazil is or at least in the Northeast, they don't do billboards. They do sound buses. They'll take like a big, like giant four-wheeler and like just a big speaker. Giant speaker, like 5 feet tall, 20 feet wide, and then they'll just blast it. Like, they'll do that for supermarket commercials, or do that for any kind of advertisements they want to do. So if you're trying to do personal study in the morning, right around the time that personal study is ending, they'll start driving around talking about supermercado, super copy, and stuff like that. It's a lot of racket, but they had one of these big buses, and they had a band playing like Ave Maria, and like just with kind of rock tunes and stuff like that. And so as I kind of looked at this, the Catholics and their commotion over here, and the evangelists, it kind of brought back this image, as I thought, of Joseph Smith, and back when he had the first, before, when he was having those questions about which church to join, and this war of words and opinions that is a very real scenario. It's a fact of life, something that these people in Natal and in Rio Grande do Norte, they go through on a daily basis. They run into people that Catholic, he doesn't live up to his religion, he just kind of says that he goes to church and whatnot, and then does all these horrible things. And then the other side, the Catholic saying, that evangelist, he just robs and whatnot, and then goes to church so he can look all better. And you'd find these people in the middle that just, they'd see the hypocrisy on both sides. They'd see all this hatred, this conflict. And we'd run into a lot of people that were just atheists because they saw so much conflict, and you're just like, you know what? God can't exist because there's so much of this problems going on. And that's when our message would be so powerful. We talk about the restoration and how, this is exactly what we're talking about. This exists because an apostasy happened. And there is a church that exists and that has all the answers and the solutions. And that is why, in my opinion, the church is having so much success, is because people are exposed to this. And it's a message that is very powerful, and that if you can get them to realize, oh yeah, that's right, like this has an influence for me, then you can have a lot of success as a missionary and finding ways to kind of bring that home. A lot of times that's kind of difficult to do, because you'll find a lot of people that they follow blindly. They don't, and a lot of it is the nature of the religions. I read a lot of these passages in 2 Nephi about the churches of men and how they lead people away. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I know that these churches exist, and there are people that are being deceived, that are being drawn away. And there are, like, when we would go and teach these people and start explaining the doctrine and say, that really makes sense, and the opposition it's always there. Like, we had a policy that was called checky match, which is like checkmate. And once we had a person that was marked for baptism, and again, this happened like quickly, like when you found someone, pretty much the only thing that keeps people from getting baptized is them going to church, which is the same anywhere, but in the world, but especially in the Northeast. Like, if you can get them to church, you are expected to have them with a date marked for baptism within a week, usually. And obviously that date's not going to be like 1 week. It's usually 2 weeks. Usually they go to church a couple times and then you prepare them. But during that last week before baptism, we would check up on them every day. Because we would go there and then we'd find that some aunt or uncle had said something bad about the church, and so then they no longer had a testimony, or they had questions about the stuff that we had explained the day before. They had problems or issues with things that, we were like, okay, you were fine with this yesterday, what happened? And after some well-placed questions and following the Spirit, we discover, oh yeah, that's what happened. They so-and-so said something about the church. They saw some video on YouTube or something like that. So it's very much, you have to be mindful of their situation, mindful of how you can help them to progress.